Hello and welcome to my latest weekly video news from Madison's. Well, I sit here on the 1st of July. I record this every Thursday every week. So still slightly reeling from the end of stamp duty deadline up to June, which is now done. You can still save £2,500 if you complete before the end of September against normal levels. See, my brain is completely fried with all the activity. But that big saving, the £12,500 on top of that £2,500 saving has now passed. There was obviously lots of talk about sales collapsing and many deals falling out. And I reported on a vlog a few weeks ago actually that there'd been some research done on that which showed that actually most people felt they would still go through with their transaction. I only lost one deal which was cited because of the stamp duty, but actually I don't think it was, because we found a solution for the buyer which would enable the deal to complete and the sellers to still live there under a license to occupy. But he decided to walk away, and that was my only deal I lost. Everything else held. It either held because we just about got there in time if we were expecting to, or indeed if we weren't. People have been preparing themselves that for a few weeks now. And actually, the loss of the stamp duty didn't make a huge difference, and they want to still go through with that transaction. The market, though, still feels phenomenally busy. I think everyone's been also expecting transaction levels to also fall off a cliff after the stamp duty holiday. And I know I've been banging on about this for weeks now, but the stamp duty holiday was simply a cherry on the cake of that enormous fuel in the economy for a once-in-a-generation reassessment of, does my home work for me? The search for space, the need for an extra bedroom to act as a home office, the need to not be so close to a station, the move out of London. Of course, we were all talking last week about that article in the Times, which said about how Tunbridge Wells is such a desirable spot for Londoners to go and how that's only increased. And good old Times at Tunbridge Wells had an article on that a few weeks ago. So the Times was a bit slow on the uptake of that one. We've been feeling that for a little while. We've always been attractive to the London market, but particularly attractive at the moment. Great schools, green spaces, easy access to the city when need be, and of course so much else on our doorstep here and such lovely architecture. So what will happen from here? Well, I think activity will return to more normal levels. House prices will cool a little bit. We've had an enormous rise, so Nationwide have just produced their figures. The market rose by a whopping 13.4% from the end of June 2020 to the end of June 2021. That is the biggest growth in the market since November 2004. And interestingly, house prices had increased for the last 3 months consecutively. We can look back at June, obviously 2020, and think, well, that wasn't quite a fully normal market. The market only just reopened following the first lockdown. Things hadn't really got off to a start. So you're kind of taking a very weak month into that pool of average of 12 months. So that interesting increase of month on month, the last 3 months, is very important. Shows how there is enormous confidence in the property market and how people continue to want to buy and move. And that's been one of the biggest issues, of course. There's simply too many buyers for the number of sellers. And I think that will improve. I think the market, as it starts to return to more normal levels, you will see sellers coming to market because they don't have that fear that they're not going to find. So still get a great price, come to market, so supply will sort itself out a little bit. And that all means, I think, we'll move to single-digit price growth by the end of the year, probably in the order of around 5%. So watch this space on this one. So it all sounds very rosy, doesn't it? Property market's been great. We're exhausted but exhilarated from the journey we've had. So what's the concern I have going forward with the economy? You know I like to give my little economical slants. Well, definitely for me it has to be inflation. There is quite simply a lot of money in the economy at the moment. There's been so much quantitative easing, so much of the central banks of all the countries in the world producing extra money to create stimulus to support through the pandemic. There's estimated to be an extra 13 trillion in the economy at the moment. And inflation happens when there is simply too much money for the goods and services that are being provided. So you get this enormous price rise. And I think that will certainly be a risk going forward. That money has to go somewhere. There's too much in the economy. It has to be spent on something. And of course, we've got lots of issues with supply at the moment around products and services for a variety of reasons. So inflation will be the challenge. We'll watch this space on how the government decides to handle that. And it will depend, I think, on some important announcements coming forward of how they ease out of the pandemic. And of course, property is always a great hedge against inflation. What I mean by that is when you are in an inflationary environment where prices are rising, property will protect you. Sitting in cash is terrible. You quite simply won't be able to buy the same amount of stuff the following day. So property does good price increases, hedges against inflation. You just have to watch interest rates. It's a great way to control inflation is to introduce increases to interest rates, which makes money more expensive, and that of course affects mortgages. And then of course when affordability becomes an issue, prices can just come off a little bit. So let's see what happens. It's exciting times ahead. I'm hoping it calms a little bit over the summer so we can all catch our breath and look forward to our busy autumn market. In the meantime, if you are thinking of moving, what about this gem of a property that I've brought onto the market on Queen's Road? Absolutely gorgeous. The living accommodation is so well appointed for a family. It's immaculately presented and it's got a fabulous garden and off-street parking. On at a guide price of 1.25, but boy, it's proving popular. Be quick if you are interested in that one. Well, I hope you have a great week and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.